The entire world knows July 4th. Yeah. But America is the only one who's celebrating independence, right? Because America was set free from bondage many, many years ago. Similar to America, there's a lot of countries who were set free from bondage, who had freedom. I checked up the internet, and there are 178 countries who celebrate freedom 1 month or the other in the year. So it's not only India, not only Pakistan, not only America, but there's like South America, Australia, South Africa, you name it. There's a lot of countries that celebrate freedom from captivity. So I want to talk to you about freedom today, and as to what I mean. I don't remember the last time July 4th happened to be on a Sunday, and figured that this would be a good time to really talk about what does freedom really mean? Why are people so desperate to be free? Countries are desperate to be free. Children are desperate to be free. They want to go away to college, far, far away. Neighbors want to be free from other neighbors. You want to be free from your employer. That's why you're looking for retirement very soon. What does freedom really mean? What does free mean? Now, we printed out notes for you, just so that you follow me, you track me. There are some fill in the blanks, so throughout what I'm saying, I'll say things where you can fill those blanks in. I do not have a PowerPoint presentation, but we have few verses that we will highlight, and keep tracking with that. And really, at the end of the sermon, we really want to know, put ourselves, including me, ourselves in the weighing scale and see, God, am I really free? Jesus died for me, for my freedom. Am I living free? Right? So that's where we're going to go. Now, what does freedom really mean? Does freedom really mean people in the prison, they want to be free? Yeah, people in jail, they want to be free. They must have committed a lot of crimes, but they're put in jail as punishment, but they want to be free. My kids are in high school, my one kid is in college, and she's been applying when she was applying for colleges in different places, most of her friends want to go far away from their parents. They want to be free. Now, my question is, what does that free mean? What does that freedom mean? Many of us, when we finished graduation, we finished engineering, we finished whatever we finished, we wanted to go out and work. Not work in the same hometown, but out and work. What does that free mean? Some things are understandable, some things don't make sense to me. But I want to take you to understand this. Does freedom mean no bonds, no rules? Do whatever I want to, free to do whatever I want to? Let's say I'm free, okay? Let's say I want to be free. Does that mean that I can do drugs as much as I want? I can drink alcohol as much as I want? I can party with no limitation. I can go and stay in somebody else's house, knock on anybody's door, walk into their house and say, I'm free, I want to sleep here. Does freedom mean that? Or I go into the parking lot, it's free, right? I'm free. Go to the parking lot, take the most expensive car, throw a stone, break it, get inside it. I say, I'm free, I want to drive this car. Does freedom mean that? What is freedom? Freedom cannot exist without laws, right? Because if you are free without a boundary, you will not exist anymore, because it'll be like the law of the jungle. Like Pastor was saying a few years ago, survival of the fittest. I am more fit than you, or you're free, I am freer than you. I might destroy you. That way, society can never exist. When we say absolute freedom, like anything goes. So freedom has to live under the circle or the boundary of some laws and rules and regulations. Why? It is for our protection. If I say I am free, I can't take my car to the opposite side of the highway and drive against the traffic. I'm free. It doesn't work that way. There are some laws and rules put in place for my safety. So freedom, when we say freedom, we have to be careful how we define freedom. When I say freedom because I want to be rebellious, is that really freedom? If I were to take drugs, destroy my insides and my brain, and after a while I cannot live without those drugs, am I really free? If I consume alcohol all the time, I become an alcoholic, become a slave to alcoholism. Initially, I started off with alcohol, saying that I'm free, I can do whatever I want. Eventually, I go into bondage. Am I really free? Because I become a slave to something. Church, I want to highlight, we are all slaves to something. Whether God or the devil, you decide. We are all slaves to something. Freedom is the same way. Are we really free? Let's turn our Bibles to Exodus chapter 1. All right. So the scene in Exodus chapter 1, the background to that scene is many years ago, a long time ago, there was this man called Joseph. His brothers deceived him, kicked him into a well. A few pirates, a few slave traders came, picked him out of the well, took him and sold him as a slave in Egypt. Now in Egypt, Joseph prospered. Joseph rose up from one step to the other till he became Pharaoh. Now, because of Joseph's dependence on God, Joseph was able to store a lot of grain, and when the time of famine came, he was able to save the world because of his ingenuity, because of his dependence on God. What happened is, the sons of Jacob, the sons of Israel, the 11 sons of Israel, or Jacob, also moved from wherever they were into the land that Joseph was living, that is Egypt. Okay? Good so far? So when everybody knew that, oh, this is Joseph's brother, brother's family, they were treated like royalty. Because Joseph is the Pharaoh, Joseph saved the entire world, Joseph saved my family, I am eternally grateful for what Joseph did. Fast forward a few years, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, people forgot who the people of Israel were, who Jacob was, who Israel was. What happened in 300 years was that after Jacob came to Egypt, and his family prospered. His family multiplied. His family multiplied. It seems like there was no end to what the Israelites could do. There came a king who decided that if I let the Israelites thrive, tomorrow they will overthrow my kingdom and they will rule over me. And that is where Exodus chapter 1 to, I think 10 or 15 goes. So let's read that together. Exodus chapter 1, verses 1 onwards. These are the names of the sons of Israel who entered Egypt, each man with his household, entered with Jacob. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin. And Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher, all the people who were directly descended from Jacob, numbered 70. But Joseph was already in Egypt, and in time Joseph and his brothers and all the generation died. The Israelites, however, were fruitful, increased greatly, multiplied, became extremely strong, so that the land of Egypt was filled with them. So between verse 6 and verse 8, there's like 300 years, okay? There's a lot of time. Then a new king who did not know about Joseph came to power over Egypt. He said to his people, look at the Israelite people, more numerous and stronger than we are. Come, let's deal with them shrewdly. Otherwise, they will continue to multiply, and if a war breaks out, they will ally themselves with our enemies and fight against us and leave the country. So they put 4 men over the Israelites to oppress them with hard labor. Manipulation, right? You manipulate people. You put hardships over them, they become a slave to you. Then you fast forward to Exodus 2:23. Now, what happens is, hard labor was imposed on them. What could be done easily, it was made hard for the people of Israel living in Egypt. They were enslaved. with the labor that the people of Israel did in the country of Egypt, they actually created many, many monuments. Things that are useless they must have created, but they just wanted them to suffer. They just wanted them to be under their thumb. They just wanted Israelites to never become masters. They wanted the Israelites to always be slaves. With me so far? They were in terrible hardships. Terrible. The hardship that we go through is nothing. It's like heaven compared to what Israel went through. Exodus 2:23 onwards. During that long period of time, the king of Egypt died, and the Israelites groaned because of slave labor. They cried out, and their desperate cry because of their slave labor went up to God. God heard their groanings. God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. God saw the Israelites, and God understood. In the time of need, Israel called to God. A desperate cry for help. Church, I want you to pause here. There are times that I've prayed for things. Nothing has happened. And there are times that I've desperately prayed. And the answer came from places where I would not even imagine. Church, this is not my message, what I'm going to say, but I'll say it anyways. Your prayer is great. Sincerity should follow your prayer. Desperation follows the prayer. God will answer. God answered Israel. Then you know the story of the Ten Commandments, right? The movie, the Bible story in Sunday school. What happened is God found Moses, and God said, Moses, I'm paraphrasing it, Moses, go and deliver my people out of Egypt so that they can come out of Egypt and worship me in the wilderness. 3 days journey. That's all God was asking Moses to ask the Pharaoh. Moses has to go to the Pharaoh and say, Pharaoh, 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 I want to take my people out of Egypt into the wilderness. It's a 3-day distance from here, and there we will worship. Oh, Pharaoh, help me. Pharaoh said no. And God knew. Bible says God knew Pharaoh would say no. And what happened after that, you know, there were 10 plagues in the kingdom of Egypt, in the land of Egypt. All through those 10 plagues, the people of Israel were safe. Church, it's a big thing. We are going through a plague right now. You like it or not. In about 100 years, COVID will be called a plague. Now we don't call it because we don't see it. We always, whenever I think of a plague, I think of rats running, you know, all these things running here and there, and the buildings falling, water leaking. But in about 100 years of time, this will be called a plague. 10 plagues, the people of Egypt survived. They not only survived, they thrived because God was with them. Now, and you know the story. As they were delivered from Egyptians, they came to the Red Sea, and God parted the Red Sea through Moses. They walked through the Red Sea. After they walked through the Red Sea, the chariots and the people, armies of Egypt also walked into the Red Sea. The waters covered them, and they were drowned. They were dead. Right? Now, between the land of Egypt, between the house of bondage, the Bible calls Egypt the house of bondage. Between the house of bondage and liberty was the Red Sea. Church. And the Red Sea was parted by who? God himself. God was with Moses. God was with the people of Israel. Now, from bondage, God took him through the Red Sea into freedom. They are free in this land, Red Sea, and slavery on this other side. People of Israel celebrated. People of Israel danced. They sang. You know, they did everything to celebrate. How many days do you think they must have celebrated? How many days of celebration? 10 days, 15 days, 3 months, 6 months celebration? Finally, they had to move. Now, after bondage, they've come into the wilderness. They are free now, but they need to go somewhere, right? God promised them, God told them, I will take you to a land wide enough, very fruitful land, the land where the Canaanites live, the land that is fruitful, the land that is flowing with milk and honey, land that is unlike any other that you've seen. The people of Israel were in the wilderness. They did not see the land, but they heard the promise. All they had to do was get to the land. We all know historically land was only 40 days. I mean, in hindsight, vision is 2020, right? 2,000 years, 6,000 years later, we say, hey, that land on the map was only 40 days and you took 40 years. What kind of GPS were you using? You know? So that land that they had to see or that they had to live in was not in their sight. They didn't see it. They just heard about it. And as they are walking in the wilderness, you think they were fasting and praying in the wilderness? They needed food. They needed water. What is freedom, church? In your notes, for those of you online, sorry, we will have to figure a technology to send you notes, but we have notes here today. What is freedom? The dictionary definition of freedom is the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint, or absence or subjugation to foreign domination or despotic, tyrannical, or brute government. The state of not being imprisoned or enslaved. So, based on this definition, do you all agree that Israel was free? Yeah. All the tyranny, all the despotic behavior of Egypt, all the slavery was all gone. Now they are free. So based on this definition, we all agree that Israel was free, correct? Israel was free. Physically, they are free. They can do whatever they want. They can till the land, they can sleep all day, they can do whatever they want. They are free. But I'll show you that although Israel was physically free, they lived in bondage. In the book of Numbers, there are 7 instances that show that the people of Israel, in spite of seeing the miracles of God, in spite of surviving those 10 plagues, in spite of seeing the pillar of cloud in the morning, the cloud in the morning and the pillar of fire in the night, in spite of seeing all that, they still rebelled against God. They murmured against God. Can you imagine the audacity? The King of Kings and the Lord of Lords working for you. You're seeing all that, and now here, immediately you turn back and bite the hand that feeds you. Israel was free physically, but were they free mentally? Were they free in their mind? Were they free in their heart? I'll show you all the 7. Don't need to turn there because it's going to be a lot of verses. First one, grumbling about hardships. All Israel had to do was carry the Ark of the Covenant from place to place. Carry that one symbol that God said carry, the God who saved them from so much, God who's providing them free food, food that they have not earned. One thing that they had to do, carry that from town to town, wherever they go. They said it's a hardship. The Israelites were used to complaining and grumbling in Egypt. Did you know that? In the time of hardship, in the time of difficulty, how many of us grumble and complain? If not to your own spouse or your beloved ones, do you complain and grumble within yourselves? Oh, this is so hard. I wish it was like this. God, you don't even know what you're doing. What kind of hardship? It's complaining, murmuring. Oh, that neighbor of mine, or that colleague of mine. Oh, I just want to. Oh, if I were not a Christian, I would have done something. Church, I know some people who say that. Oh, if it was not for me, my changed life, I would have, Oh, he just has to see me angry. Oh, yeah. Church, grumbling was a habit that the Israelites had in Egypt. They carried that habit with Moses to the wilderness. Miriam and Aaron attempted coup, saying that the Lord, they say that, has the Lord only spoken through you, Moses? Lord can speak to anybody, through anybody. Oh, God is only speaking through you? Why not us? They were used to a rebel mindset. Every day in Egypt, they would be like, oh, when is a deliverer coming? Oh, let me hide some weapons. Even in Jesus' time, right? Even in Jesus' time, they knew a Messiah would come. But they were thinking a Messiah would come with a sword and army and bombs and guns and all that. So they always had this mentality, oh, Messiah would come, a deliverer would come. They were expecting a deliverer to come and take them in a chariot, lead them in a chariot with horses, elephants, and things like that. So they always had a rebel mindset. So much so that Moses' own sister and brother rebelled against Moses, saying that, Moses, what man? Who do you think you are? You think only God speaks through you? The audacity. This guy, poor guy, he did not get paid for anything. He just led the people, obeyed God, led the people from one place to the other. Rebellion. Second one. Third, murmuring against Moses and Aaron, wanting priesthood. So Korathites, there's this bunch of people, they were already from the tribe of Levi. But now they wanted a promotion. They're saying that, Moses, you're making all these rules. We also want to make some rules. Okay, who do you think you are? Moses goes into the tent of meeting. He meets God face to face, downloads or gets instruction from the Lord, comes back out, and when he comes back out, his face is shining. None of these guys are even allowed in that tent. Rebellion, opposition. They were used to that in Egypt. Now they're continuing the same habit here in the wilderness. You know what happened to those murmurers who wanted a higher priesthood, higher promotion? They died. The earth opened and swallowed them. They died. Still, the people of Israel blamed Moses, saying that, oh, because of you, these guys died. Now we will murmur more. Imagine how obstinate, how hard their heart was. Slavery, bondage made their heart so hard that they couldn't see through right and wrong. They wanted their way throughout. Then ultimately, another instance, they ultimately wanted to appoint a leader. Why? To go back to Egypt. They said, this Moses fellow is no good. Okay, he brought us from Red Sea. He didn't know what he was doing. He's just wandering aimlessly. He says that he's hearing from the Lord. Oh, that pillar of cloud, that just happened. Oh, that fire, that just happened. Parting of the Red Sea, that just happened. 10 plagues, oh, we don't know, something happened. They ignored all of that. And they wanted to appoint somebody to take them from where they are, cross the Red Sea, and back into Egypt. Can you believe that? They were just redeemed. They were just set free from bondage. They were just set free from slavery. They were getting free food, free manna, free water to drink, everything free. Clothes did not shrink. Clothes continued, shoes continued, nothing. Everything was provided. In spite of that, they wanted to appoint somebody, a leader, to take them back into Egypt. The Israelites reached the wilderness of Zin, and they faced a lack of water. And they turned to Moses, and they started quarreling with him, fighting with him. Hardships make us so short-sighted. When things get hard, all we want is the relief to our problem. The promise of God that I will take you to a land filled with milk, flowing with milk and honey, was nowhere in their radar. All they wanted to see is roti. All they wanted to see is pani, water. That's all that they cared about. Being short-sighted because of how hard the bondage is. So what I'm trying to say is, the habits, although Israel was delivered from Egypt, from bondage, from the rule of the Egyptians? Their heart, their habits did not change. It stayed where it was. The last one I want to say, people became impatient and spoke against God and Moses, called food that they had not earned worthless. Look it up whenever you have time. It's in your sheets. Numbers 21, 4 to 5. They called the food that they did not earn worthless. Ungrateful. You know what happened right after that? Snakes came and bit a lot of people. The entire nation, snakes just came and started biting and killing people. I personally tell you this, a heart that is not grateful invites a lot of stuff that you do not want to see. It is just the principle. The attitude of gratitude gives you the altitude. In everything, give thanks. God is good all the time. They say, right, shoes or no shoes, God is still good. You know, clothes or no clothes, God is still good. Food or no food, God is still good. Attitude of gratitude. So, what is my point? Israel is out of the house of bondage in Egypt, but Egypt has not left their mind. They came out of Egypt, but Egypt didn't come out of them. I'm going to compare that to Jesus. Church, we are all saved. Some of us are saved new, some of us are saved many years. God has brought us out of darkness into light. The redemption has been done. In Christian circles, right, we have a lot of jargon. We say a lot of Christian things that an unbeliever will not understand easily. So when we say, I am free, what am I free from? When we say, I am saved, what am I saved from? And if you look at your sheet, and I'll quickly go through this because I think time is running from us. In the new covenant, Jesus' life and death brought us freedom from the penalty of sin. Jesus' victory, Jesus' sacrifice brought us freedom from the punishment of sin. Jesus died for us, he took the punishment himself, so we are free from the penalty of sin. Second, freedom from the presence of sin. Like we can go into glory. We can go into glory. We can sit with Jesus. We are sitting at the right hand of Jesus. There is no presence of evil anymore. There's no presence of sin anymore because Jesus washed us clean. Jesus has set us free for freedom. Freedom from trying to earn salvation. You don't have to earn salvation anymore. It is free for us to take. If you believe and you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, we are saved. We do not have to climb 20 mountains. We do not have to do a lot of offerings of flowers, of milk, of honey, of people, of chicken, or whatever that is. Nothing like that. We are free from all of that. We do not have to earn our salvation. God has given it to us free of cost. Freedom from pleasing people. I do not have to please a priest. I did not have to make a neighbor happy. I didn't have to make a bishop happy to attain salvation. God has already done the job for us. Lastly, freedom from the power of sin. This is where I want to dwell, and this is where my message is going. Old habits, gossip, idolatry, sexual immorality, lying, any other things that you can put there. You are saved because God paid the price. He paid the ransom. You don't have to pay penalty anymore. You are saved. But the habits that existed before I was saved, some of that has still come and crossed the Red Sea with me. That is bondage, church. That is bondage. We're going to talk about freedom from that kind of bondage. Here are a few questions I will ask you. And hear those questions, and you don't have to raise your hands and answer, but think to yourself, am I free from this, from what I'm asking? Are you unable to believe God for what He has promised? However big, however small that is. Are you unable to trust God? Are you able to give thanks in all circumstances? All means all circumstances. See, I may sound ruthless and I may sound insensitive. I know a lot of people go through a lot of hard things. Church, I totally understand. Life is not easy. Life is really hard. We live in a fallen world. It makes it even more difficult. Life is hard. But wherever evil abounds, grace abounds even more. Church. So, are you able to live a life of faith? Am I able to live a life of faith, selflessness, in a life of servitude wherever I'm always looking for the opportunity to serve somebody? Am I able to live like that? Are earthly possessions dominating, influencing my decisions more than God's principles? What do I mean by that? Okay, let's take an example. Insurance, all right? So, we pay insurance for a car, we pay insurance for the house and all that. Many people, if a hail damage happens on your house, insurance comes and covers a portion of that, and many want to cheat the insurance companies to do that. So they will falsely write something, and they will not use that money to, fix the roof for the whatever that is. So an example here is that I am considering worldly wealth higher than God's principle of do not lie. Am I planning my life based on earthly possessions, or am I planning my life based on heavenly foresight? Are you able to give the needy and to the kingdom work freely? Church, this is one of my pet peeves. And don't get me wrong, but see, the only one thing that God has said that prove me in this is in your giving. Many a times we say, no, we have a lot of theories that we come up with, a lot of this, a lot of that. I'm saying keep it simple. The Bible says give, and it shall be given unto you. Just do that. It's very simple. Pressed down, shaken together. I am a living testimony. I am a living proof of that. I'll tell you, we were not very well off. When we were living in India, Pastor Stanley, you know what a chal is, right? I'll tell you, the cluster of homes, you know this, So, cluster of homes all together, right? If they had to go to the toilet, they have to walk into another cluster of toilets. Toilets were not in the house. They were outside. And there were like 70, 80 homes who would use 7 toilets. Out of the 7, 3 may not be working. Some of you identify with this testimony. Your lives might have been the same. I come from such a background. God raises. When you give, God does not hold back, church. It's a principle that is time-tested. Yet, we are like the people of Israel, seeing God work, we question God. God, who are you? Why should I give? I can keep some, you have so much. Really? You think God needs our money? Such an insult, right? Give, and it shall be given unto you. Pressed down, shaken together. Try it out, test it out. Cheerfully give. Don't give grumblingly. If you can give 100 cheerfully, give it. You can give 100,000 cheerfully, give. But do not question God in this, church. So, are you able to plan with eternity in mind? Most of us, we have 401k, we have retirement and all that. After we die, do we have a plan? Retirement 401k ends there. Jesus said, collect for yourself wealth in the future kingdom. Do not collect for yourself wealth here where moth and rust will eat and destroy. Church, I introduce you to this new plan. Beyond your 401k, start planning. Amen. Beyond your retirement, start planning. Invest in the kingdom. Your time, your ability, your capability. Look for opportunities to serve. Invest yourself in the kingdom. The return will be manifold, church. Your returns are not limited to 401k and your retirement. I mean, that will take care of you while you're alive. What happens when you die? You cannot put a premium on that. You cannot put a price on that. You know, if you are influential in saving one soul a year, maybe you're not leading them into doing the sinner's prayer, but you did something to orchestrate an environment. You did something that was nice for them, that they were able to remember, oh, that Rejji, oh, he did this for me and he's a Christian. That John, he did this for me, he's a Christian. Oh man, that will go in your account. Gather for yourselves riches in heaven, church. Please consider, go beyond your retirement and look for investments after death. Here's a good one. I don't think this applies to anyone, but I'll say it. Am I in church today because I feel it's my duty to be at church? Or is it out of eternal gratitude and worship towards our Savior? Am I attending a church service, online or here? I mean, I'm not saying anything else. Am I attending a church service because I feel, oh, if I don't attend a Sunday's church service, oh, it's not good? Or is it because, oh, I want to go into the house of the Lord, I want to attend praise and worship, I want to give my praise, I want to hear the word, I want to bless my brother, bless my sister, I just want to exalt the King of Kings. If that is not your attitude, church, let's change something. Last one. Are you unable to look into the future and say, I do not know what the future holds for me, but as for me and my house, I will serve the Lord. Church, if we are not able to say if we are not in any of these buckets, right? And there's probably more that you can come up with. If we are not in any of these buckets, we are in bondage. Unknowingly, we are in bondage. Fear of failure, it's a bondage. Fear of dying, it's a bondage. You know, a long time ago, I watched a video by one of the preachers, and he was showing life, you know. And he had this long rope, maybe like a really, really, really thick, long rope. And the tip of that rope, he put a tape. The rope must be like 40, 50 meters. The tip of the rope where he put the tape was maybe 2 inches. And he took that rope up and he said, this is your life on earth. The rest of the 40, 50 meters is your life in eternity. Perspective, church. Perspective. So true freedom is not the right to do whatever we want. Okay, what is true freedom? So far we've established freedom does not really mean whatever I can do. Yeah? True freedom is not the right to do or the ability to do whatever I want, but the ability to do what we ought to. The freest of all people on the earth are those who do exactly what they like to do and do not suffer in hell. You understand? I am free when I want to do whatever I want to do, but not end up in hell. This is where the verse comes, delight yourself in the Lord, and he shall fulfill the desires of your heart. I have to delight. I have to find what delights the Lord should be delighting me. So, church, we've established that although we are saved by the blood of the Lord, we are redeemed. Now we are here on our journey, our Christian life, which is a long life, a Christian life, a journey. And in that journey, we carried some of our baggage from our previous life. So there is bondage. How do I redeem myself? How do I get freedom from this bondage? There has to be a transformation that takes place, church. A transformation in our hearts. A transformation in our mind. There is no other way. We cannot wait for a Holy Spirit meeting for the Lord to come and touch our brain and change. It doesn't work that way. It will work for 2 days. It will work for 2 weeks, 2 months. But it is not lasting. It is a good thing. It gives you the strength, the power to go forward, but it is not lasting. But what is lasting? Romans chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. Therefore, I exhort you, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a sacrifice, alive, holy, and pleasing to the Lord, which is your reasonable service. Do not be conformed to this present world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Do not be conformed, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. This renewal of the mind has to be everyday, church. I cannot emphasize this enough. If renewing of your mind, if memorizing verses help you renew your mind, do it. If going through a systematic Bible study every day, every week, do it. There are many parachurch organizations that offer that. But the renewing of the mind is my prerogative, is my job. It is not God's job. Church, are you with me? The renewing of the mind is up to me. It's my action item. It's what I need to do. It is not what God has to do. God has already given us the word. God has already given us the resources. And He has already given us 24 hours a day. 7 days a week. If we are not dead, we can do it. The renewing of the mind is our work. So, do not conform yourself to the pattern of this world. And this, I think, is not a problem here. I mean, we are not reckless in our living. We are very cautious. But if there are times that call you to compromise, church, please consider God is watching. Maybe your church fellow brothers are not watching, but God is watching. And whatever you do as a compromise will come back to hurt you later in your mind. What you feed your mind with. Okay, let's talk about renewal of the mind. I'm going to talk about mind and mindset. What you feed your mind with becomes a mindset. So a mindset is impossible to change without changing your mind, what your mind is filled with. Typically, when we hear the truth about breaking strongholds or renewing your mind, we get busy trying to change our mindsets. We quickly learn that it is not easy. A mindset is composed of many thoughts, church. A mindset, for example, if my mindset is, if you sin, you're going to go to hell. My mindset is, you deserve that punishment. Or my mindset is that, everything is okay. You can be free. You can be a Christian, do drugs, alcohol. My mindset is, you can do all the bad things, it's fine. That's my mindset. Tomorrow somebody says, no, that's wrong. It's hard for me to change the mindset unless we change whatever is making up that mindset. You see, there are principles in our mind that we bring in. Love one another, for this is the will of God. Do unto others what you would do others, what you would do others to do unto you. These are things, small thoughts. When you stack it up one on top of the other, it becomes a mindset. A mindset is what controls you. The mind is what you control, church. Mindset controls you, but you control the mind. The only way to change your default and automatic thinking is by filling your conscious mind with new information about God's truth. Once the conscious mind is filled, it will overflow, it will become a mind. So what I'm not saying, church, well, I'm saying that to renew your mind, you need to fill yourself with the Word. Period. When I say word, it is not just, when I was little, I used to see my uncles, in the morning or in the night, after the shower and all that, they'll take the Bible and they sit, and, in Malayalam, they recite it in a tune, They shake back and forth and they recite it in a tune. They used to do that. Morning, some used to do, and the evening, some used to do. It's great. But it did not change them. It did not change them, church. I'm saying, read the Word just like how you eat food. Like, I want to learn. I want to eat. Even if it's 2 verses, even if it's 3 verses, read that, put it inside your heart, and meditate on it, till you're saturated. Renewing your mind. Stop believing that you cannot control your thoughts. Yeah, Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is worthy of respect, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there's something that is excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things. You can control your mind. You can control where your mind goes. Joshua, the law of the scroll must not leave your lips. You must memorize it day and night so you can carefully obey what is written in it. Then you will be successful. Psalm 1, how blessed is the one who does not follow the advice of the wicked, or stand in the pathway of the sinners, or sit in the assembly of the scoffers. Instead, he finds pleasure in obeying the Lord's commands. He meditates on it day and night. Church, all of us here, including me, I have to renew my mind. You have to renew your mind. There is no escaping it. We may be living on this planet for another 40, 50, 60, 20, 30 years. We do not know. But if we want to live as a Christian, we have to live with a renewed mindset. What does a renewed mindset do, church? You're able to forgive others easily. With a renewed mindset, when you have the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, when you have His words in your heart and His thoughts in your heart, it's easy to forgive. Somebody offends you, you can easily forgive. When you have a renewed mindset, you develop a hatred towards sin and worldly living. Abiding in Jesus becomes second nature. We daily experience the fruit of the Spirit in our lives. We find life and peace beyond understanding when we allow our minds to be transformed. A renewed mind helps us to recognize our true identities. And I'll dwell on this a little bit. Church, I have a question for you. What is your identity? At work, I'm a business analyst. At home, I'm a husband, I'm a dad. In my neighborhood, they just call me Rejji. They don't know who else I am. What is your identity? Does work define you? Does family define you? My identity should be, I am a Christian saved by the blood of Christ wherever I go. And because I have that as my identity, I will be a proper husband. I will be a proper father. I will be a good neighbor. I will be a faithful steward. You understand, church? If your identity is related to your work, you will not find any meaning in anything else. You cannot. It's just not possible. If your identity is that you're a regular churchgoer, but not that I'm a Christian who would require desperate saving, and I'm saved by the blood of Christ, if that is not your identity, church, you have to renew your mind. A renewed mind helps us grow closer and discern the will of God, church. Worship team, if you could please come up. So what is bondage, church? What is bondage? Is it really slave labor? Is it really hardships? Is it really all that stuff that the world is throwing against us where we are not able to get out of? Or is it our mind? Somebody said the mind is a battlefield. The mind is a battlefield. God has provided His word to take captive the mind. Freedom is not free. It comes at a cost. Jesus already paid that cost. If you want to be free of your mind, church, that cost we have to pay. I have to go the extra mile to renew my mind. I have to break traditions. I have to break traditions. Church, my desire for myself, my children, my family, all of us at church, is that the word will become so entrenched in us that it will not become legalistic, but it will become liberating. The word of God has the power, not becoming legalistic, but being liberated. When you have the word in you, when your minds are renewed, it provides you a space to prosper. Joshua 1:8, meditate on these words day and night, then I will show you success. To discern the will of God, renew your mind, church. It is so key. It is so key. It is hard to not emphasize it over and over again. Last year, I'll wind up in a little bit. Last year, the whole year was COVID and whatever, and this year also, we are reeling from after effects of that. I hope our faith has stayed strong. I hope the calamity that we have seen has not shaken our faith. God is still God on the throne. We don't know why some people don't get healed. We don't. That's the truth, If we knew all the answers, we wouldn't be sitting here, right? We would be in heaven with the Lord, right? Because He'll tell us all the answers. We do not know. But what we know is that regardless of where we are, God is still faithful. Whether in this life or the next, God will continue to nurture us. God will continue to push us through. But it starts with us, church. The people of Israel walked through the Red Sea, in the wilderness, continued to grumble, continued to murmur, continued their old habits, continued to do whatever they did, in spite of being free. Christians, we walk from darkness into light, and some of the old habits are still not gone. Church, we all need deliverance. All of us need deliverance, one way or the other. I'm saying including me. I'm no better than anybody else. But can we come at this moment and say, God, I'm at your feet. I just want to grow. I just want to know you more. I just want to love you more. I just want to see you. Can we all stand, church, please?